is coming up now all the way from Scandinavia. I actually believe from Sweden originally, although living in the UK today, is Christopher Lambic. And Christopher's background, folks, is in coaching and real life experiences in business. And from getting to know Christopher just recently and covering his profile and different things, I've come to realize that he's pretty much takes a holistic approach to finding the deep person within you, to finding the passion that may have once been alive and roaring inside you, but today is perhaps a little bit more dormant and just waiting for someone to bring it back to the fore. So I think Christopher's with us at the moment. We're just waiting for him to pop on the screen. So Christopher, whenever you're with us, hello, Christopher. Yeah. Good to see you again.
Hi, Hugh. As you can see, I've changed locations a little bit. So as I'm co-hosting with you, but now I'm stepping into my other room, or virtual room anyway, to the Alchemy Experience, where I'm coming from now. So thank you for that introduction. And yeah, I mean, it is really about digging out that essential passion, right? To find the essence of your authenticity, right?
Yes. I noticed you used the word, is it alchemy experience? Is it, is that, sorry, what's the experience? Just your head's blocking me there slightly. Alchemy, is it? Yeah, alchemy. So what does that exactly mean to the average person who's watching today?
Well, so alchemy, as I understand it, and anyone who's read The Alchemist,
Follow.
Yeah, exactly. So it is a metaphor, because traditionally we understand it as a process of turning base metal into gold, right?
Yes.
So to me, it's a metaphor from turning our sleepwalking selves into self-actualized, or just presenting our self-authentic selves to the world. So it's bringing, nobody is born with anger, fear, any of these negative programmings that we kind of grow up with. That's all accumulated and burden on top of you. So the process we use is really to dig down and find the pure essence of yourself that you were born with, and just shake off all of that other crap that you've built up. And that process in itself is an experience, because your life as a whole is filled with experiences. So you start out with, well, in our system in a way, it's like your consciousness enters that collection of cells in your mother's womb, right? That's when life starts. And then everything beyond that are experiences. So, sounds you hear outside, getting nutrition, being, coming out into the light, all of those things are experiences until the point where your consciousness leaves your physical self. So just kind of boiling it down to the very bare essentials. And when you look at it that way, everything around these experiences that we have they're impermanent. They're just kind of characters or paraphernalia that shows up to give you richness to that experience and allow you to look at an experience from different angles and learn something from it. Now, we tend to, as we grow up and we learn these different things to be afraid of and so forth, people holding us back because, oh, you can't do that. Who do you think you are? Like we talked about before. And it really, we start building up this limited worldview with the glass ceiling, here but no further. But when we go back to looking at these experiences we've had, because we do experience our present and our future through the lens of our past experiences. So, and you being a student of NLP, clearly you understand how to reframe and looking at these experiences. Just because you looked at those experiences one way before doesn't mean that you need to continue doing that. So you can go back, and this is where time travel is fully possible.
Yes.
Just recall the memory and say, okay, what are the other ways I can think about this memory and this experience?
Yes.
And you can totally refurnish it. You can totally, change the way you look at it, change your perception of others, and so forth. So all the elements that come into an experience are all impermanent. They come and go, and it's in that process that you accept the impermanence of those elements. And I mean, this is where Buddhism talks about the impermanence of life. The experiences are not impermanent because they are there. The experience you can't take away. You can't change the actual experience, the event, but you can change how you look at it. So this is where, when you apply alchemy to these life as an experience, then you can actually change, going from someone who puts yourself in, puts yourself down, talking bad about yourself, this negative self-talk, being in a victim space. You can go through this alchemy experience and start experiencing life for what it is and for what you really want it to be, because you go then back to the pure essence that you came into this world with, and then you can bring about and really step into your greatness. And it takes bravery, because once you do that, people don't like it, because now suddenly you're someone different that they're not used to.
So you're
projecting out something completely different that they're unfamiliar with. They just go, "Who is this?" Right?
Let your light shine, as the song says.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's
very good.
Only the brave will allow that to happen.
Yeah. Well, listen, Christopher, we're looking forward to hearing your talk. Just before we go to that, I've got a little note in my ear saying we're going to run just a 30-second commercial, and then we're ready for you to share your whole experience with us on that alchemy experience. So we're just going to go for a 30-second commercial here, and we'll be back in just one moment. Stay with us.
Yep, sounds good.
The Best You TV, a TV channel with only the best business leaders and influencers ready to help you rise to the top. Available now on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and Google Play. Learn and grow from in-depth interviews, documentaries, inspirational talks, and motivational masterclasses from the world's biggest thought leaders, speakers, teachers, authors, coaches, and highly successful business gurus. The Best You TV is now live.
All right. So thank you for having me here on this platform, and thank you everybody for joining in who's listening live. It's really interesting times these, and finding your passion in a crisis, I think sometimes is easier, because you kind of strip away everything and you look at the future, and it's all very open, right? So what we talk about, and I'm going to approach this more from a business point of view today, even though business is a bigger fractal of the individual experience, because as we look at healthy businesses, it is a collection of individuals bringing their energy into business, driving it towards a collective goal that you have all agreed on. And it's that agreement that then allows the business to succeed. So today, my talk really is about passion as a portal to business success. And it starts with the individual. Someone in a business has to decide that this is what I want to do. So whether it's an entrepreneur starting up a new business, you go into a business with an idea of what you want that business to achieve. Very rarely go people into an experience saying, I want to amass money. I want to build a pile of money. Because then suddenly you start looking at the challenges in life with money. And you can't, money is a tool, money is something that you do something with. So it's not looking at how money can work for you, or how money is built up in a pile, as it were. It's what money can do for you, right? So bear with me a second. I'm just going to make an adjustment here, as I'm seeing my camera is treating my face like a green screen, and don't want that. So when we look at passion, we can't really get there until we understand ourselves and have an understanding of our own process. So when we work with clients in our coaching workshops, we really go back and look at, okay, where do you come from? What are your experiences? And try to remove some of those limiting beliefs that we may have. And once we do that, we use a kind of a system of 4 pillars or 4 kind of steps, but they do interlink and they do weave, are weaves of the same tapestry. So we got the that you show compassion for yourself, the experience, and everybody else connected to the experience. Then you accept yourself, and you accept your engagement with the experience. You accept everybody else's path, and you accept that their paths are separate from yours, and that it's okay whatever they brought to the experience. Then we go into working with forgiveness. So forgiving yourself for whatever choices you made that led to that particular experience, or forgiving anybody involved in the experience that may have caused you pain or hurt. And then after that, we might actually be able to ascertain the gifts or the gems, if you like, that can come out of that experience. So once you have that all sorted, then you can start peeling away the layers of the onion of, the influences that you've had growing up, the programming, the fears, and so forth. And then the passion will start to come out. So, I walked through life, until the age of about 43 or something like that. And then I started asking myself questions. And this is where we start out in our coaching process. We give everybody a sheet of questions, and they get about a week to kind of mull over those questions. Once you start asking questions, your subconscious will start to seek the answers and will start to present you with the answers. And once you do that, it's like you've opened Pandora's box. You can't go back. You will be on a process of searching and finding out who you are and what makes you tick and what really drives you forward. Now, that is when you start to unravel your passion and start understanding who you really are. So that road can be quite long. For me, I think it was probably a good 4 years on my process to really nailing down and understanding who I was and what I was wanted to do, or what was my pure essence, my authentic self. And I think part of that was the last key of it was accepting myself for who I was, and accepting that, not everybody's going to like what I do. Not everybody's going to accept what I do. And that's fine. As long as I accept it from myself, and long as that resonates with me, then that's perfectly okay. So why I'm going through all of this is that you can't show up and say, here's my passion, unless you really believe it and understand yourself. You need to embody the passion yourself. It's like living, eating, breathing. And there's some teachers out there that will say that, in order to be successful, you really have to be obsessed with what you do. I don't agree with that, because I think obsession signifies imbalance. To me, you show up and you're passionate. If you're passionate about what you do and who you are, then you will find that balance, because you will be regulated to being passionate about your family. But like for me, my massive transformative purpose is to help humanity prioritize passion. Then I work with my children that way too. So it's, yes, in some people's eyes, it might be an obsession, but I bring that across the board, so that it's balanced. So I find life balance across the board, and it's like the old adage that find your passion and you won't work another day in your life. And however cliche it may be, it is very true. So now, when we look at businesses, traditionally, you have the entrepreneur, they have a passionate idea, it works out great, and then 7, 10, 15 years later, a lot of times, the realities of business will start to kind of pile on. Have to deal with the working with accountants and all the real life type of challenges that we come across. Now, if you get to that stage, you're going to focus more on the real life issues rather than the possibilities that were awakened from your passion, right? And when you get to that stage a few years down the road, and it becomes about the money, and the goals become about the money, then all the actors, all the stakeholders in the business are going to start extracting from the business what you send out, or what the business sends out, which is money and fear. Because once you start putting money or revenue as the main goal, then you also introduce fear. Oh, we need to reach this, otherwise this is going to happen. We have to reach this goal. And then people start, employees show up for a paycheck. Owners show up to get their share of the profit. The suppliers show up to sell their product and make their money. Clients show up to buy products cheap. So it's all about the collective energy that the business has. Now consider this. If you show up with a business where passion is the goal. So say, for example, that your passion is to create beautiful, affordable, ethically produced fashion, right? There is no particular goal in that you can actually achieve. It's something that you continuously do. It's not like increased profits by 20% in 2022. So it becomes a more of a system that you implement and achieve on a daily basis, because you're doing it, you're embodying it. Now, everybody who shows up in that business as a stakeholder will look at that, and they will be there because they subscribe to it and because they agree with it. So investors will come because they believe in the business concept. They believe in the passion. And for anybody who's studied Ikigai, this is really part of the whole the bigger picture I'm talking about. So really, you want to have that Ikigai in front of you. And suppliers will show up because they align and resonate with what you're trying to do. So it's not going to be some fast fashion manufacturer who really doesn't have any good plans for sorting out their pollutants and so forth. You as a business will search out the suppliers that are going to meet and align with your passion and Ikigai. The same with the clients. Your product might be a little slightly more expensive, but because the clients align with what you're trying to do, they're going to be happy to buy from you. So now, as you might notice as I'm speaking, instead of people extracting what they want from the business, people are starting to put into the business because they believe in the mission and the passion. So it's really about coalescing and bringing together a coherent group of stakeholders, because you can have a community as well. I mean, Apple is a very good example of a business where you have Steve Jobs who shows up and creates this passion, this following around the business, and then he gets kicked out, and all they now care about are the numbers, and the business goes down. It starts really ending up in trouble. Now bring Steve Jobs back, and suddenly the magic is back, because he embodied and brings back and brings in that passion. So I think that's probably one of the better examples. So money is a tool to achieve what you want. And, you know, some people might come into a business with the passion of living a comfortable life. And that, obviously, then money will be the catalyst for that. But then how are people going to align with that? Well, that's certainly up to them. And we all accept that that's their journey. And one of the popular concepts when you talk to salespeople, and Hugh will, when we bring him back on, will attest to that. You know, businesses typically go out and talk about their unique selling propositions. And that has worked very well. But today, when you talk about unique selling propositions, you have to tell different stories to investors. You have to tell a different story to a client or a supplier or to the employees, because they're all going to value the product or service differently. It's going to mean different things to them. Now, with a passion-oriented goal, you can actually bring everybody together, and you can have one USP, but now I want to call it a UPP, an up, a unique passion proposition, because it will be the same to everybody. So it comes back to the authenticity of your business, because now you're showing up and being authentic as a business. And as you recall, I was saying before, a healthy business is a collection of individuals that bring their energy into the business to drive towards a collective goal. So with that, you don't have to tell a different story to anybody, because your story is transparent and it is universal. It is the same for everybody. Now, also, when you go outside of the business, how competitive is the business going to be when they only look at the passion or the ikigai aspect of the business? I would argue very competitive, because once you start breaking that down, you start looking at, okay, what are the objectives that we have for this year, next year, 3 years, 5 years ahead, in order to feed that bigger ikigai goal. And then, so we have a tool called OKRs, objective, key, and key results. So you look at the objective, which will have very broad strokes of objectives, still very much tied into the ikigai. Everything feeds that. And then we'll go down and we'll look at more operationally. Then you can go to sales, you can go to human resources, you can go to operations, manufacturing. Doesn't matter what aspect of the business, and you can take those objectives and break them down into key results. What key results do we need to achieve in order to feed that objective that will then feed into the higher purpose, if you like. And this is where we then can get more focus. So on the sales side, for example, key results will be, oh, I need to get 10 new clients and I need to retain 95% of my existing clients. Now that in itself, in a normal, in a traditional business, I should say, where people show up to produce numbers, they will then do that because they are fearful of not making their bonus, or they're fearful of losing their job, what have you. In a passion-driven business, they do it because they align with the business, and they know that, oh, I want to do my best. I want to make sure this happens because I believe so much in the business. So it becomes, the money becomes a result of the passion. The money becomes a tool that the business uses to feed that bigger purpose. So there's a bit of a new concept that appeared in the past couple of years called conscious capitalism. So when you listen to some people like Peter Diamandis, for example, when he talks about capitalism, it's not the ugly, dirty concept that has been portrayed in for the past probably about 100 years now. It's kind of, capitalism is about creating opportunities and creating prosperity for everybody. Now, it's been misused possibly, but there is this drive with conscious capitalism. So businesses can do well, but you can't do well if all you care about is the money, because then that's going to go down all the way down into your production line. And if you're always looking for the cheapest product, then yeah, there are sacrifices that are going to be made. Now, if you focus on the passion or the ikigai, and the ikigai then being your passion, what you can make money off of, what you're good at, and what people want to buy. So those are the four elements of the ikigai. Then that is going to feed the entire process, and you are going to present a product that is ethical, that has high moral values, and so forth. So at the end of the day, it really comes down to showing up as role models. If we show up as we want, the change we want to see in the world, then all of these things are not going to be utopia any longer. We are going to be able to present ourselves, and people are going to look at us, as I was saying before. Yes, when you first make the changes, if you've lived your entire life one way, if then you show up and you're changed and you're now operating from a different paradigm, if you like, people around you are going to say, what the heck? They're not going to be too pleased with it, because now you're trying to do something that they might not dare doing, and they don't recognize you, they don't understand you, and now you will start to attract others. And that's the same when a business makes that change. Employees, you need to recontract, like Keith Ferrazzi talks about. You need to recontract with your employees. If you're now switching from a profit or revenue-based model into a passion-based model, you need to go out and to all your stakeholders, your employees, your suppliers, your clients, your investors, and so forth, and say, now this is the drive we're going to have. Who's with us? Who is aligning with this? And undoubtedly, there's going to be plethora of people, investors, suppliers, clients, etc., that are not going to align with it. But the ones that do align with it are going to be your biggest supporters. And the beauty is, once those leave, that the ones that don't align with it, they leave. That prepares space, energetic space, for you to attract the ones that do align with it. And that will happen very quickly, because those voids have to be filled, and it is going to be filled with what you put out into the world. So the concept here, and this going back to showing up as role models, is that eventually people will look at you and say, why do you think things going so well for him? Why is he doing so well? Or she for that matter, but why is that person doing so well? What is the secret to their success? And they're going to want some of that. And they want to achieve that same. So they're going to look at you and ask you, what have you done? What's your key to success? And then you can share how you've worked towards bringing out your passion and presenting your passion. And it was like Darren was talking about before me, you have a responsibility to share your story. Now you may think that, oh, well, I've heard that story many times. And what I'm talking about here is no rocket science. It's not brain surgery. People have talked about this for years, and there are plenty of authors out there that talk about similar things. But the way I tell it will resonate with someone. It may not resonate with someone else. But the people that it resonates with, they might not resonate with the earlier ones. So we all need to share our stories because it's going to reach someone. And that's part of the responsibility. And once we do that, it allows others to follow that path too. And this is how humanity evolves, in my view. And, I have friends that look at me and go, oh, that utopian thought pattern, or, that utopian goal is never going to happen. I just turn around to them and say, well, it might not, but if I don't try, who then is? So it comes down to, why not me? Why not now? So if Hugh wants to come on and we can have a little chat about this, then he's welcome to do that. And it's, as I say, it comes down to being the best role models that we can be. And we have, for example, as I mentioned, Steve Jobs. Richard Branson is another good example of someone who shows up and is his authentic self. And when you speak to any of these, it's not about whether they get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, or if they journal, or whatever other keys to success that there might exist. It's more about, how do they show up and how do they embody their passion. And they all say money is not the objective. Money is a byproduct. It's a nice to have that happens after it. So welcome back, Hugh.
Hi, Christopher. Interesting insights there into what you're sharing with us, and I think one of the first ones that I would pick up on is this old adage that you have to be completely burning yourself out to be successful, which you hit right on, and that nail on the head for me, because I've heard that say so many times. And then you meet people, who died far too young because they were working far too hard. There's no point in being the richest person in the graveyard, as they say. So I just loved your analogy on that.
Well, when I was growing up, the joke was richest person when we die wins, right? But the point is that in terms of wealth and monetary wealth, there's always going to be someone richer than you. And at the end of the day, when you look at it, and if that is your catalyst, at some point you're going to turn around and say, okay, well, what if I lose everything today? What do I have left? And then you're going to be quite poor. Now, if you come about things with really finding out who you are and what drives you and what you're passionate about, that's wealth no one can take away from you. And that is going to be, the platform that you can get materially ruined time and time again, but you will always come back because you have that drive and burning ambition within you to achieve or drive towards that passion. You will never achieve your passion because it is a too big of a goal, as it were. So it is a, and I think if you talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, what they will all also say is that, failure is just another step on the way towards success, right? So someone who strives to have a lot of money, losing their money will be a failure that is detrimental to them, because they have now failed at their goal. Now, if you set up your passion, you can't fail, because you keep trying at it, right? It's like I was saying before, that you have that ikigai, and it's not a goal that you're ever going to achieve. It's something that you work within, and it allows you to feed to, and it brings people together, as opposed to creating a disparate type of a situation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you come from a sales background and yourself, and when you were out selling, when did you feel that you were the most successful in your sales career?
Well, it's actually interesting, because my first 3 or 4 jobs in sales weren't that successful,
Yeah.
So I was only 19, 20 years of age, and my first role was selling windows, and it was an incredible experience, and it was perhaps it was a genuine offer to get into that environment, and it didn't really work out for me, and then I went to sell photocopiers and fax machines, capital equipment, during the early part of what we had in Europe here, recession, a hyperinflation recession at the end of the 80s and the early 90s, and interest rates were incredibly high to bring inflation down, so it absolutely crashed economies across Europe. And then so that didn't work out either, and it was, but each of them now, Christopher, with hindsight, and listening to what you're saying as well, with hindsight, each of them they weren't failures, they weren't mistakes, but there were opportunities to grow, there were opportunities to learn. And now, with the benefit of hindsight and the education that personal development has brought, I ask myself all of the time, what have I learned from this experience, or what are you teaching me now? And they're all opportunities to grow, they're opportunities to learn. And I think perhaps in summing that up, I now also realize that they become a deep-welled resource that's inside everyone, that sometime, whether we use them ourselves down the road, or we get an opportunity, like we talked about with Daryl earlier on, to leave that CSI imprint on people, it's an opportunity. Sometimes our interactions with other people may only be for a short time, but some of those experiences that we have to draw on actually help someone else as well. So it's all and everything today for me, Christopher, good, bad, or indifferent, is all about an opportunity to learn. Not about being successful, or not about being a failure, not even about making a mistake, but opportunities to learn that we will draw on from the future, or share with someone else in the future.
No, that is very true, and it is that positive DNA is that showing up as your authentic self, and showing up as authentically as you can, and of course it takes work. It doesn't happen overnight, and it's something we work on for the rest of our lives, until we find that situation where we can become enlightened and become Buddha or Jesus or whatever it may be. But that's not a goal in itself. When I talk about enlightenment, it's about the journey, not about the end result. But I think you would agree that and I think this really applies to governments as well, really any organization, is that when you get so bogged down and concerned about the money, then you are looking at from the aspect of fear. You're not looking at the opportunities and the possibilities when you look at, this is what drives me, this is my passion. And as you said before, with the benefit of hindsight, it's when you become aware of the what experiences have fed you, what they have provided for you, as opposed to what they've done to you. That's when you can look at your present and future situation, and listen to your intuition and your gut feeling, and actually move in the direction of well, as we're talking about before, the fork in the road, and actually take the right, the fork that is most appropriate to you, that is going to be most beneficial to you, because fear is going to drive you down that route that is going to be of a scarcity mentality. It's not going to be of abundance. So it's hugely valuable to understand your passion and know where that's going.
Yeah, and I think, like, I mean, when I reflect back, and I haven't thought about it in years because that's over 30 years ago now, Christopher, that, those experiences that then shaped me, because I could easily have allowed my pilot, like that we talked about earlier today, burn out, and then finish up living that life of mediocrity, which I never would have been happy with. So again, as I say, a friend said to me, everyone dies at a different age. We just get buried somewhere else down the road, or most people do. So the personal development has been the huge enlightening for me, and what's happening with the best what's happening with what you deliver, and so many other people who we'll be hearing from throughout the day. But I want to ask you this, because we're going to wrap it up now in a moment, but I just want to ask Christopher, if I was chatting to you and I was someone who was in business or who was ambling through life and not sure about where that fork in the road was for me now, what would you do for me? What would you bring out in me that would light that, turn that pilot light again into that burning ambition, that burning furnace that just wells up inside and recreates a passion inside me? What would that look like?
Well, and that can be quite a quick process, actually. We would sit down and, like I said before, and I use the analogy of the haystack, because when we're ambling through life, as you say, and we're in that fear mentality, scarcity mentality, we look at this haystack and we're trying to find the needles in it. So we dive into it, and it's all very confusing. We can't find the needles because there are too many straws of hay. Now, when you go to a psychotherapist or a coach or something, you take all the straws and you put them into order. You compartmentalize things, and then you find the needles at the bottom of the stack, right? Now, what I employ is a scorching technique. I basically say, set the haystack on fire, and you can just pick up the needles, right? And that's using that mentality that I was talking about before, that just looking at the experience. Don't worry about all the elements that was in there, because they're impermanent anyway. Relationships come and go. Materials come and go. So materialistic things. So just look at the experience, look at what life is really about, and then take the gifts from that. That's where we start out, and starting to ask questions like, think back when you were passionate. What was that like? Bring that feeling back. So it's about reframing your experiences and reframing how you're going to go forward, and bringing back the feeling, the feeling within yourself, setting that intention. It's that combination of intention and feeling that will then enact the law of resonance and allow things that vibrate on the same frequency as you to come and meet you.
Just effectively get yourself back in tune then.
Yeah.
Super.
Glorified mechanic.
Very good. Listen, brilliant. It's an invaluable insight, and I know that there's a lot more that people can get. So listen, we're going to go to a commercial now, just in a few minutes, folks. And there's some good, I prefer to call them informationals, because there's some good stuff going on around the whole Best You family at this moment in time. There's lots more good stuff to come this afternoon. Just approaching 1 o'clock, we've got Sarah Davidson coming on, and she's got some, again, phenomenal insights to share with us as well. And later in the afternoon, we have Michael Neal, and Michael Neal has been a long-term hero of mine. I've read the first book I ever read on NLP some 17 years ago. He put the forward to it and done the editorial in it. So it's great that he's actually live with us here today on the stage. So we should be looking forward to that. So listen, Christopher, as we wrap up and as we get ready to go to our commercials, tell us how people can get in touch with you. Where do we go to find Christopher Lambic?
Yeah, so you can find me at thealchemyexperience.co.uk, as you can see
In the
over.
background, yes, yes.
And yeah, I run a podcast, a weekly podcast that releases at 11:11 a.m. GMT every Friday, where we talk about the bigger things in life and talk about conscientious business. And yeah, I'm literally just search up Christopher Lemke, and yeah, you'll find some that have the same name as me. But I'm quite prolific in my production of material. So.
Brilliant, Christopher. Well, listen, thank you for that. And Daryl's been sitting and watching away, keeping track of things. So he just pops a note in to say he's been really enjoying your talk. So listen, thank you, guys. Thank you for that.